Thanks very much. I timed the entrance very well. That was remarkable. So there is always a risk when you get somebody who works in news who agrees to speak at your conference, and I told this and Graham, that there is always the odd chance that on the day there's going to be a stats release at 9:30 that means it's not going to happen. I think we can thank ongoings at Westminster. Today is a safe bet. Stats news is probably not going to dominate the headlines. So the reason I'm here, generally, the reason we have a professional statistician, and I came over from Ireland to do my postgrad, then worked in a drug company doing drug trials for about 10 years before I joined the BBC, is to help journals do numbers better, to help editors sit in conference and say, is the evidence behind the statement strong enough to support the headline that we want to put on it? To do this kind of stuff is to say, we take this stuff seriously, and then to be a bridge to the stats community, which essentially means when you see mistakes that we make, you email me. And the errors desk, but that's my job. Now, it's luckily for you, today, it turns out I am a very good public speaker. I've done a course, and I know that you should start every good talk with an inspirational quote. I have decided, though, not to follow current fad, and get ChatGPT to write it for me. I've turned instead to a more austere, eminent source for my quote, The In-Betweeners' second movie. For those of you not familiar with them, this is a bunch of 4 rapscallions on their various adventures, one of whom, Simon, known as Hogwarts for his previous attendance at a private school, is often on the wrong end of conversations, and this is their discussion on how dolphins are fed in a marine park. If it works, oh dear. How do we play?
Even though it is pretty bad how they're treated. Did you know all they feed them is raw fish?
Oh, that is grim. I'd puke if all I ate was fish. They bang out of order.
Imagine it, just raw fish. Their diet is fish.
Yeah, because that's all they're given.
But also because that's what they eat. It's so cruel, no burgers, no KFC, no Nando's on birthdays, nothing. How would you like it?
Well, if all I ate was fish, I probably wouldn't mind it. All right, yes or no, how would you like to just eat raw fish?
Well, if I was a dolphin...
Yes or no?
Look, you can't compare...
Yes or no?
These people are marine biologists.
Yes or no?
It's not
only raw fish.
Yes or no? No?
Correct.
So for scientists or people who work in a field like yours, who have worked on a study for years, carefully doing the piloting, carefully working out exactly how you're going to interrogate your subjects, and aware of all the statistical and non-statistical sources of bias, and then you come to the media and deal it must feel a little bit like this sometimes. That the question boils down to like yes or no. How would you feel just to do whatever is slightly different to the question that you'd originally asked? So it must be an unending source of frustration for you. But thankfully, you are going to have the opportunity in the next 15 minutes to work out why it is like that. You've been, well, I say you've been promoted. You may think you've been demoted. You've joined the BBC. Congratulations. What I would like you to do is to review a publication from the Office for National Stats and then decide on the headline for me. I will be phoning you up constantly and asking, have you done it yet? But I wouldn't throw you into this completely uninitiated. So I'm going to give you a bit of a briefing. So turn your minds back to the last cost of living crisis we had about 5 years ago, when inflation had been running above average earnings for quite some time. So green line, the increase in prices over where they stood a year ago. Red line is the increase in wages over where they stood a year ago. And so you can see, since about, early 2017, prices have been rising faster than wages. Value of wages is being squeezed. But it could be coming to an end. We see inflation is falling on the far right-hand side of the chart. And in the release that you're going to be looking at in about 4 minutes, the red line could cross it. So wages could be growing faster than inflation, and the cost of living crisis could be over. That's news. That is big news. That is push alert on the phone, get someone out quickly onto the streets, on Oxford Circus to say, well, it may look like that, but I'm still paying more than I was for bread a year ago. I can't really feel it. Get your quote from whoever was the Chancellor at the time, I can't remember. Get your quote from Labour as well, saying this, thanks to the strong and stable leadership of the government, we've managed to bring this under control. Get the government saying, but they still left millions going further into poverty. Get all that stuff. Get it done for the radio bulletins at 10. Get it done for the news package at 1 o'clock. And then get, something else that's going to move the story on for when you do it at 6 o'clock as well. And the online copy needs to be up right away. So get cracking. And of course, if it's not, well, somebody is still on at 1 o'clock. Yeah? So you still got to do something, they just need to look elsewhere. So you need to tell the news desk very quickly. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the release, at wages, see if they've overtaken inflation, and then just say, is it a story? And what is the story? Now, this is what we said last time. The squeeze shows signs of easing as wages rise. Everyone is prepped. This is what the releases generally look like. Hopefully, when I hit next, this is going to move on. So this is to orient you. When you get the release, get your phones ready, because this is how you're going to be doing it. When you get, this is an old release, you can scroll down and you can see the things that you're interested in. You're interested in the main points that will cover what's happened to real wages, and if you need a little bit more detail, go down to section 8. That is where you learn about wages. So, headlines, you see down the bottom you have 2 bullet points, one saying this is what wages grew in nominal terms, not adjusting for inflation, and real terms, bottom bullet. So it should be that simple, but just in case it's not, just in case I'm setting you up for a fall, why would I do that? You can get a little bit more detail down in section 8 where you work out exactly the details of how we've adjusted for inflation. So the first, yes, how it's calculated. Okay, so there are 3 roles. So the first thing I want you to do is to arrange yourself into groups of 3 and work out in those groups the alphabetical order of your first names. Because I'm going to be giving you 3 different roles depending on alphabetical order. Take 20 seconds to do that, because if you can't do that in 20 seconds, you're stuffed, right? Off you go. Hello, very nice to meet you.
Thanks so much for agreeing to do this.
Total pleasure. I mean, it's very fun for me. It's not going to be fun for them. That's all right. Yeah.
We've got a packed crowd, as you can see.
It's good. Yeah, you got a really good turnout. It's good. And it's a joy of being able to do it face to face.
Oh, no, it's the first one for 4 years.
Yeah. And this stuff is, I mean, it's nice to do this stuff, but it's the coffee breaks. It's the chance like to actually. Anyway, they've had loads of time. You've had loads of time. Right. Stop. That is more than 20 seconds. I realize that somebody took a bullet for you by delaying me there. It's not going to work twice. Okay, hands up if you are the desk editor. Grand. Okay, so your job, very simply, you just manage these ones underneath you, and tell the main news desk, that's me, when I phone you, what's the top line? Just tell me what's the top line. Simply, is it a story? Do we need to roll out the trucks? Yes or no? Or yes or no, familiar. And what is that sentence? What's that sentence? The economics correspondent, stick your hand up. Second, that is the person whose name is second in alphabetical order of the 3 of you. So you're going to be going on the channel in about 10 minutes. 10 minutes after the release lands, okay? But I don't want you to do the whole hit, but generally what we do is, when I've been doing these, I write a cue for the presenter, and I write the questions I want that will structure it easily for them, that will enable me to bring out the points. I just want the cue. So what is the top line of the story, but written in a sentence that a newsreader could say? Just in human. Say it in human. Right? And give somebody, because it's 9:30 in the morning, they could be watching Phil and Holly, give them a reason not to keep on flicking over. Yeah? Something that's grabby, that gets their attention. Online writer, do the same, but don't worry about adverbs, don't worry about prepositions. It's 50 characters. That's your limit. Yeah? 50 characters, and we're pushing this alert on phones as soon as we can, because if we don't, somebody else will. They'll win the search. They'll win the race to the news aggregators. They'll get more traffic into the story. So your job is to come up with the headline for the story very quickly. Now, not all of you know all the same things. So in order to share some information with you, and different groups of you, elite groups of you, I want you all to close your eyes briefly. Close your eyes, everybody. It's not a trust exercise, don't worry, I'm not going to steal your wallets. Okay. Online writers, open your eyes. Just the online writers. Okay? Because there's different ways of counting this thing. And so if you use the wrong number, it's going to be misleading, and it won't be consistent with what we said last time. So you want to use that version. Online writers, close your eyes. Economics correspondents, open your eyes. Now, the bank uses it. The ONS, though, they've been pushing some guff recently, some fancy alternative. Which one are we looking at? Because we want to match the bank. Close your eyes. And that's for inflation, by the way. It's a measure of inflation. So everyone close their eyes. Everyone close their eyes. And then finally, the editors. So you have to manage the information flow between all these people with their different knowledge. But also, editors, open your eyes. We got a complaint. Some very helpful member of the public, some valued license fee payer, pointed out, look, but so maybe you should with the right? Okay, close your eyes. In fact, everybody open your eyes. Okay, go. The release has landed. I've just tweeted it out, or you can type this into your phone and get the release. Put up your hand once you've got it, because once 5 people have got their hands up, then the release is available, and if you don't know it, that's your problem, not mine. Off you go. One. That's one person. 2. 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, in 2 minutes, desk editors, I'm calling you to ask, is this a story? Go. So much fun. I enjoy this talk so much.
I think this is a really good time.
That's your lot. Stop. Stop. Ring, 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 ring. Desk editors, ring, ring. Stop. Ring, ring, ring. Stand up. Desk editors, stand up. Editors, up, up, up. Ring, 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 ring. Hiya. It's the news desk. Ring, ring. Right. Very simple question. Stop! Very simple question. I noticed the ones of you, the big clumps of people where there is no editor. I see you. I see the chickens. Okay, very simple question for the editors. Is this a story? Yes or no? No. What, I want identifiable answers. You're not hiding in a crowd. Arm up like this if it's a story. Arm, this left arm up if it's not a story. Okay. Does anyone want to tell me why? Does anyone feel at this stage they have enough information to go on why? Stay standing if you want to tell me why. All right, you've got another. I'll give you another minute. Go on, another minute. If you need the inflation release, it's there. Or I put it on Twitter. Ring, ring, ring. Ring, ring. Editors, up. Editors. Editors. Okay, this time, there's no escape. This time, we will come amongst you with microphones and we will get answers, okay? Because I'm really sorry. I know I said I should have called you a minute ago, but it has been a whole 2 minutes. You've had 4 minutes now to digest this release, plus the bit where I was waffling on in the middle. You've had ages. So, story or not a story? Right hand up. Story, not a story. Okay, of the stories, does anyone want to tell me why? Anyone standing up? Can we get a microphone to this lady over here? And of the not stories, does anyone want to tell me why? Lady at the very back in the green. Graham, you're getting an easy job. So let's go to you first, actually. The lady in the green, tell me why it's not a story, because you're closer to the mic. Go away, Siri. Okay, why is this not a story?
Because the Privileges Committee recommends
Yeah.
you should be suspended from humiliated 90 days.
That's a good point, well made. It's probably not going to make today, but back in April 2018, there was potential. So I'm going to get a non-smart arse answer. So from the no's, we'll look for one more no. Could you tell us why you think it is a story today?
I think it shows that although the cost of living squeeze isn't over, it is moving in a promising direction over the trend data over the most recent 3 months.
So you think the squeeze is not over? You're saying that the green line has not been overtaken by the red line?
No, but it's moving in the right direction.
It's moving in the right direction. Does everyone agree that the green line has not overtaken the red line? I mean, this is a simple question. We agree that it has not. I mean, this is interesting to me, because what is the bottom line of the release, of the first section of the release?
It has overtaken by 2%.
It has overtaken.
It's increased by 2% when adjusted for price inflation.
So why are you telling me it's not? Because I've got something down here that tells me that it has overtaken and it is a story. Why are you telling me that it has not overtaken? What's the basis?
I didn't read it good.
Okay. Anybody want to tell me why, even though the ONS are telling me, the Office for National Statistics are telling me that it has overtaken, you think you know better than them? Anyone who thinks it's not a story, go for it. You're using different measures. Go on. So what happens if we look at CPI? Has anyone looked at CPI yet? No? Get cracking, because guys, The Guardian have already put it up on their live page. We've been going for more than 6 minutes here. Yeah? And so far, they have got copy on this. They've got a tweet from Michael Hewson. They've got a quote from the Office for National Statistics. And all you can give me is, I don't know. Thank you very much. Right? Get cracking. Has inflation, measured by CPI, been overtaken by wages or not? I'll give you another 2 minutes. Go on. Ring, 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 ring. Not that I mean to put any more pressure on you. I hate to disturb you and break in upon your elite thinking. But the Telegraph have got a whole story up. They're so convinced that the cost of living squeeze is over. They've got pictures of people celebrating at Ascot. Would it be within your ability to possibly get a shift on and get back to me as soon as you're ready? Thank you. Oh, hang on. Bloomberg say it's not. I'm getting a bit confused. Maybe you were right. But can you just give me a bloody answer in, let's say 30 seconds? leave it there. Let's leave it there. So, Reuters say it's happened. TUC say it has happened. So we've got the Guardian and the Telegraph think it has happened, and the TUC, Reuters and Bloomberg think it hasn't. There is some understandable confusion. Clearly, I've set you up to fail. I mean, I'm being quite nasty. Does anyone want to have a final say on whether it is a story or not story? Well, I just show you what happened. I'll show you what happened. So for us, two things first: the news first, and then the actual data. So for us, at 9:32, we pushed out an alert, and we went on a different headline. We were waiting for this, but you want to get your story out quickly, because that's how you drive traffic to the story, by having it up early in the game. And we kept on pushing different things, putting out different lines, breaking news alerts on the jobs market, because there's a morass of stats in there if you look down afterwards. And in the background, we were having what I would term collegiate discussions about disagreements, trying to work out what was the right way to do it, about all of those lines that I've taken in. You know, the appropriate adjustment. If you're not going to use the ONS measure and you're going to do it yourself by hand, you flipping idiots, what are you going to do? What are you going to characterize it as? So we started throwing in quotes in order to kick to touch by about, 10 to 10, 10:15, different views saying getting at the story but not making a final decision. This is why. The ONS headline measure is CPIH, and it's fairly clear that nominal earnings, the bluish line, has overtaken that, and that's what they led on in their release at the bottom bullet. But they weren't using CPI, which is the bank preferred measure, which was a measure that we preferred at the time. So we had to go and adjust it. If you look at CPI, it's still all right, actually. But that's the 1 month average. You lot, I suspect, can look at the last 3 dots and work out what the average of those 3 is. If you adjust for the 3 month average, then it hasn't. So depending on how you look at the data, it is a story or it isn't a story. Yeah. But there's a kind of a bigger question, like how certain are you? Like all of these threshold stories are very, very difficult, because that's the exact moment when the robustness of your top line to slight changes in how you look at the data is at its worst. Yeah? Because it's like the moment that it's interesting is when 2 things cross over, or when the virus turns. Those are the moments when you've actually got the toughest judgments to make. So I've given you a very difficult job for your first day on news, but also I've left loads of stuff out. Yeah? And the main thing I want to get you feeling in the course of this is, from the very start, giving you 20 seconds to arrange yourself to introduce yourself to these random people sitting beside you and work out, how your name's ordered, is just to give you that feeling in your stomach. Hopefully you got it, just at least once or twice in it, of like, oh. So you have a choice. So what's the headline? Online writers, you're not getting off scot-free. Economics correspondents, let's get some headlines out of you for this picture. Let's go with the mics again. Anyone want to offer me one? And not one that says, Boris Johnson has been suspended for 90 days. No? Take her to the back. Brilliant. Graham is delighted.
Okay, so I have to contextualise this by saying this is more of a tabloid headline. I took the 50 characters challenge seriously. I've delivered it in 16. Oh. Payday disarray.
Bang on, absolutely bang on. Anybody else? Can anyone top that? No? Anyone want to give it a go? Because if you're going to get people to click, if you're going to get people to watch, you need to tell them what the fact is. Yeah? The way that has been explained to me, like what is news, is what is the sentence you'd shout upstairs? Or what is the sentence you would say if you're sitting down at lunch or going into the pub and say to your mates, shut up, stop talking, let me tell you about this, right? It gives you a sense of 2 things. Firstly, a sense of how interesting it has to be, what grabs their attention. And so the comment, payday disarray, is a great headline and good for a tabloid. But if you want something to get people to click, to pay attention, you need to tell them something. So what is it? That's the job the headline does. And secondly, it gives you a sense of the budget. How much time, or what's the 50 characters or the 1 human sentence that you have to explain the story sensibly. And it's quite a challenge for this, right? We went in the end with, nearing an end, which I think we had early on. So it's absolutely the right call, but you need to have the right call with all the workings out in place. Now, am I going to do this? Yes, okay. So I have great fun. I've enjoyed the last well, I really enjoy shouting at people. I really enjoy making people feel unhappy. I'm going on a course. But I was also at the front end of this myself during the COVID pandemic. The first 2 years in the Beeb, I sat in daily conference essentially and said, is the evidence good enough? And then during the pandemic, when there was just this fire hose of numbers, I ended up getting pulled in front of house. And so frequently, like when the infection survey was big news, it came out at noon and I was on the news channel at 2 minutes past 12. Right? Now that was when I was a bit more experienced. Early on in the game, it didn't go quite so well. So what they want is that when the story first breaks, it's the job of somebody to work out what's that top line and just to send something straight in so that you can have like a push, the channel can say breaking news and like 1 or 2 simple sentences that go along the bottom of the screen, right? And I was trying to do that. This is what, May 2020. So I wrote copy and I prepped it up the night before. Figures came out at 9:30 and you can see here I sent out 9:34. Not bad, not bad. And it has stuff that comes from the ONS, the total number of deaths, how many deaths involve coronavirus, and care homes were the big story at the time. Okay, so I've taken this from, hopefully this will run. Yeah, okay. So I've taken this from the release. You can see nearly 22,000 deaths over there. How many it's gone down by in the week. So this is when we're starting to come down from that first wave, because this is a horrible loss from the past. But in order to get the care home deaths, I had to go into one of the spreadsheets and pull it out from this cell. Care homes, deaths. Put that in, copy, press send very quickly. It was only after I'd sent the email that I realized I'd taken the figures not from the furthest possible point in the spreadsheet, and that they were a month out of date. Oh, Jesus. So quickly, pull the figure, 7911, send copy, because this is going to everyone on the BBC. This is going to 5 Live, it's going to all the local reporters, it's going to the TV channels, and say, guys, sorry, error in the final figure. It's actually 7,911. I am so sorry, but you know, we got this out really quickly. 1 minute later, hopefully no one's gone live on air with that and made a terrible, oh, Jesus. Because I took the total deaths, not the COVID-19 deaths. So this was the point at which, because I didn't come up in news. I hadn't been trained with 10 years of this before I got involved in national stories. I was working from drug trials. Your deadlines are 5 years away and you can plan them out. So I'm like, you know. And this I think is we can have discussions and there may be questions about like, why are you going so fast? But the bottom line is it's gravity. Like, you're not going to change gravity. Yeah? But if gravity is there, you shouldn't try and jump over an 8-foot wall. You shouldn't try and do things that are not possible within the time. If you want to be right, you cut your cloth to the time that you have available. And in this instance, it's don't go into the back of a spreadsheet. It's don't start working out figures and scrolling across and trying and copy paste. Just take one sentence. That's what you can do in 2 minutes. Yeah? And this isn't a fight, this is a tension that's natural all the time. So the migration figures last week, yeah? Those figures came out live in the middle of, the Nikki Campbell program, all about immigration at 9:30. And so the logistics of how do you sit down and parse through a release, which is changing all the time because the ONS are changing, how the immigration data are calculated. How do you make sure that you've got the right top lines and that maybe there isn't being some sleight of hand played here and you shouldn't be looking off in the Home Office data sets to work out the asylum claim backlog instead of the one that they've been briefing to the papers for the last 2 weeks. So how do you make sure you've looked at all the different data sources to pull the right story in a live news environment? So this is a thing that goes all the time. And look, the eye of Sauron will not always descend on you, right? And when it does, it will more often be for a pre-prepared story. Something that you've given to people under embargo, you've been able to work with them, you've got the case studies, they've done the package the day before, they know what's coming. But what I want to get this kind of gut feel, and I think people who've been, I know someone in the audience here who's been with us for a couple of months, is to get that gut feel of so much has to go right for any bit of news to get made. At any point someone could vape in the loos downstairs and throw everyone out of the building. The IT system that runs the scripts and the running orders for the news at 6 could crash, meaning that everyone at 3 p.m. has to leave New Broadcasting House, get taxis down to Millbank, and start again for 6 o'clock, because you're on at 6 o'clock. It doesn't matter if you're ready. Yeah? And so if you're trying to feed into that, you can fight gravity. You can say news should be different, or you can say, how do I communicate best into this machine? And the argument I would make is that clarity on a budget is what you want to have in mind. I've given you the budget. What would you shout upstairs? What would you tell your friends to shut up and listen to, right? That budget is not like 4 pages of nuance. It's not something buried on page 24. The most interesting bit that I do, I mean, we'll do a numbers thing in a second. But the interesting part of the game is, what is the strongest, most compelling sentence that I can write that's true to the data? Not a sentence that I would like, and then 15 lines of nuance and context. Because everything that happened in the world yesterday could make. Everything. The news desk is the last line of defense between, like, every think tank, every politician, every celebrity who bit a dog, I mean, God, I did COVID for 2 years. I didn't get all these press releases. I did one piece on the mortgage market, and now I am inundated with press releases from people saying, like, if you want to up the value of your home, book this amazing interior designer. Like, what has that got to do with statistics? The volume of information that's coming through this machine every day and being squeezed into the 8 or 10 stories, the 3 stories you actually click on every day, is phenomenal. And so, it's conciseness. What is that sentence? Maybe not 50 characters, that's like a jigsaw puzzle or a crossword puzzle. But it is, how can you articulate what's going on in your study in a way that will feed into this machine effectively? Because decisions have to be made quickly, because there's a lot of decisions to be made. Logistics have to happen fast. None of it is conceptual. None of it is like hard stuff you do a PhD in. But there's just so much of it. And that's the challenge, I think, in dealing with the media. It's having that kind of like clear communication. I'll give you 1 or 2 examples, I think. These are numbery ones. How am I doing on time? Oh, yeah. Actually, do you know what? No, I think that's the main stuff, actually. I mean, if you want to Google, there's loads of stuff on bacon sandwiches, right, on communicating risk. Oh, here's a good one. Okay, I'll give you this one example. Miriam Mirzakhani, first woman to win a Nobel Prize. Sorry, not the Fields Medal. And this is the interview that all mathematicians dread, and all science journalists dread as well. It's that question. I'll let you read it. Right? And there's a reason why we think 22-year-olds are all idiots who can't spell, right, and who can't work. It's because we forget how little we knew when we were 22. We forget how much we know. And when you're dealing with the lay public, that is bad news. Yeah? You really have to, and this may not be the case for everyone in this room, but it is often the case with the geniuses I know or I've come across who do great work, that this is the big challenge, is what accessible really means. I won't bother with this. I think we'll leave it there. I've given my message, and I'll stop and see if anyone has any questions. Thanks for your attention.